The shocker. A federal judge once put in writing what this machine could do to the person using it. Miscarriage, cardiac fibrillation, ruptured blood vessels, paralysis, loss of consciousness. It was sold as a beauty product. 400,000 people bought one. The Relaxacisor out of Los Angeles, on sale from 1949. Metal pads strapped to your stomach and thighs, wired to a control box with a dial. Inside that box, a 24-volt battery, a transistor oscillator, and a step-up transformer. That transformer is the whole story. 24 volts will do nothing to you. It's what turns a harmless battery into pulses that reach muscle through skin. It worked. 50 to 150 pulses a second, far too fast to twitch. At that rate, a muscle doesn't flutter, it locks. What you felt was the burst swelling and fading underneath, roughly 40 times a minute by the court's count. So the lie was never, does it do anything? It was, is having that done to you good for you? 1970, a permanent injunction. January 71, owners were told to destroy the units they'd paid for. 400,000 people, told to go kill it. The fraud. 40 years. 4 different brand names. Tens of thousands of buyers. And not one of these things was electric. Dr. Scott's electric corset, 1880s. Dr. Scott was not a doctor. George Scott was a businessman with no medical training at all. What was actually in it were slightly magnetized iron rods set into the stay. That's the entire mechanism. Magnets sewn into your underwear, sold as electricity. And they knew you'd want proof. So the box shipped with a small compass. Hold it up, watch the needle swing, magnets confirmed. Which is beautiful misdirection, because the compass proves the one thing nobody disputed. It was the most honest component in the product, the only part doing exactly what it said. His rival Cornelius Harness ran the same trick in London. In 1892, a customer sued him after the belt worsened his hernia, and won. The following year, the Pall Mall Gazette ran a piece titled "The Harness Electropathic Swindle. No regulator killed it." A headline did, "The Ancestor. As far as anyone can tell, this is the first exercise machine ever patented. And its best feature was that somebody else could use it for you." The Gymnasticon by Francis Lowndes, 1796, built for gout patients and people who couldn't move themselves. Feet go on treadles driving a crank at the bottom. Up top, a second crank runs the hand levers. 2 flywheels sit between them, and a drive band either couples the halves or lets them run independently. And here's why that matters. The whole thing is one rigid linkage. Treadles, cranks, and levers lock to the same shaft. Turn it from anywhere and every limb station follows. The flywheels don't drive you, they carry it through the dead spots, so the motion comes out smooth. Which means it can be cranked from outside. The patent covers it in Lowndes' own words, voluntary or involuntary. Accounts have a servant or a child turning it while the patient reads the paper. Who patents an exercise machine you don't have to use? Nobody knows why it went nowhere. No record of a sale, no surviving machine, just a patent, 1 magazine listing, and an encyclopedia entry 20 years later. The first one ever built, and it was already cheating. The Jiggler. A wide fabric strap around your backside, a motor on a post, and a promise that standing still would make you thin. 1927. John Harvey Kellogg, yes, the Serial One, puts this on sale as the Battle Creek Health Builder. Mechanically, it's the simplest thing on this list. An electric motor and a weight mounted off to one side of its shaft. Spin an off-center mass and it throws itself around. That's the vibration down the belt and into you. The engineering is completely sound. It's the theory bolted on top that's rotten, and it's called spot reduction, the idea that shaking one part of your body burns the fat sitting under it. Fat gets mobilized through the bloodstream, systemically, from wherever your body decides. Shaking your waist moves your waist. And that's a strange way to die, because there was nothing to prosecute. The machine did what it claimed. It shook you. The false part was a belief, and you can't sue a belief. So it got laughed at instead, ending up a gag prop on I Love Lucy and the Flintstones. Decades on sale. It shook every customer exactly as advertised. The Steam Gym. That belt Kellogg was selling, he didn't invent it. He inherited it from a Swede who'd done the idea properly, and enormously, 60 years earlier. Stockholm, 1865. Gustav Zander opens the first building in the world designed to exercise people mechanically. Dozens of machines, each moving exactly one thing: arm flexion, torso twisting, abdominal rollers, a riding apparatus faking a trotting horse. Resistance came from weights, levers, and springs. Power came from somewhere else entirely. It started hand-cranked by assistants, and then in 1868 he put a steam engine on it. Overhead lines shafting the length of the ceiling, leather belts dropping to every machine. Structurally, that is a textile mill. Same shafts, same belts, same central power. Except what's being processed on the floor is a person sitting still, exercised by the building. This was not a fringe operation. Over 100 Zander Institutes worldwide by 1900, and the man was nominated for a Nobel Prize in 1916. What finished it was arithmetic. A room like that cost a fortune. The war soured the idea. Orthopedic surgery made the claims redundant, and in 1920 Zander died. The Industrial Revolution's least necessary achievement, mechanizing the effort. The shaking chair. 70 years on sale for a machine designed to shake your intestines loose. And it had to be bolted to the floor. Kellogg again. He called it the Movement Cure Apparatus, filed in 1905 and granted the year after. The base sits on rubber feet dropped into sockets fixed to the floor, because without that the machine walks across the room. Under the backrest, a pair of hangers carry a drum on a motor-driven shaft, and riding on that shaft is an unbalanced weight. Spin something off-center and the whole sprung frame oscillates. Read the specification, because the seat isn't a seat. It is, in his words, a pair of oppositely facing chairs sharing side rails and a common back. It shook two patients at the same time, back to back. Who signs off on that? It was aimed squarely at the abdomen. The stated goal was to jar the intestines into cooperating. Then everything around it fell over. The sanitarium burned in 1902. The church expelled him in 1907. The Depression forced the sale of the building, and the chair carried on, reportedly still in department store catalogs in the 70s. Rebranded as furniture. The hospital died. The furniture outlived it. The lazy bike. An exercise bike with a motor to do the pedaling. Switch the pedals off and it kept exercising you anyway. The Exercycle. First version 1938, you power that one. 2 years later they added a motor, and that's the one worth opening up. The motor drives a worm. The worm turns a worm wheel. From that one wheel the machine takes two paths, one through a clutch to the pedal shaft, one through a pinion to a crankshaft. That crankshaft is the clever part. One connecting rod drives a pivoted seat bar and a handlebar bar in opposition. The seat goes back and down exactly as the handlebars come forward, then it reverses. You're folded and unfolded against a coil spring set to your body weight, and the clutch decides how lazy you're allowed to be. Throw it in, and the pedals are positively driven. It pedals for you. Throw it out, and the pedals go free. But the worm wheel keeps turning, so the seat and handlebars carry on folding you regardless. Then, 1968, Kenneth Cooper publishes Aerobics, the jogging boom follows, and the point of exercise gets redefined underneath it. A machine that sold itself on doing the work for you was now pointing the wrong way. One switch decided which of you was getting the exercise. The President's Horse. A motorized horse was installed in the White House, and the President of the United States was said to ride it 3 times a day. 1925. The staff called it Thunderbolt. Calvin Coolidge. And Kellogg designed it, 3rd time he's turned up on this list. A barrel-shaped body on a saddle frame, electrically driven, and the control is a push button. 2 gates, trot and gallop. 3 speeds inside each. 6 settings in total, and Kellogg claimed it reproduced a real horse's single foot and English trot. What problem with horses does a push button solve? The idea wasn't even new. Swedish clinics had mechanical horses decades before. Andrew Mellon rode one. So did William Jennings Bryan. And nothing broke. No injuries, no lawsuit, no debunking. What happened was that the press found out. The New York Times had been mocking Coolidge for it since 1923, back when he was still riding one at the house gym. The President of the United States alone in a dressing room at a canter, going absolutely nowhere. The only machine here killed purely by embarrassment. The punishment, up to 24 men in wooden stalls, climbing a staircase that never ends, 6 hours a day. Some died doing it. 1818. William Cubitt, Bury St. Edmunds, then Brixton. This machine is the direct ancestor of the one in your house. A wooden cylinder 6 feet across inside an iron wheel roughly 20 feet in diameter. Steps around the rim 7.5 inches apart. Men stand along its length, each boxed into his own partition, unable to speak to the man beside him. Their weight turns the shaft. 15 minutes on, 5 off. That shaft could drive a corn mill or a water pump. In many prisons it drove nothing, just a friction strap bolted on. So every bit of that work went straight into heat. They had a name for that. Grinding the wind. Prison records put the climb between 6.5 and 17,000 vertical feet a day. At least 54 British prisons ran them by 1824. Men came off with hernias and lung damage. An amputated foot at Norwich, deaths at Durham and Gloucester. Parliament ended it. The Prisons Act of 1898 phased it out, gone entirely by 1902. We built it to break men. Then we put it in the living room and paid for it. The machine never changed. We just started volunteering. Subscribe if you want more machines that should never have reached a shop floor. There's a whole category of kitchen ones waiting. Send it to the Scrapyard.